I'm here with EUGENIO Yunnis, Chief of the Sustainable Tourism Section with the UNWTO, that's United Nations World Tourism Organization. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you, Charles. Yes, I'm here attending this global ecotourism conference.
Your area of specialty, as you were explaining to me, is conservation and poverty reduction. One thing that I'm very curious about in today's world where, of course, poverty reduction generally means increasing number of visitors and or increasing the expenditure of the existing visitors. And then on the conservation side, at least in the preservation of heritage and cultural sites and natural sites, we today face some issues with these sites being loved to death, as the expression goes. And the two seems to need some balancing, or there's balance to be had. Address that issue.
Yes, well, thank you. I deal with the wider sustainability issue, meaning that tourism has to be developed and managed to satisfy several objectives at a time. Economic objectives, firstly, companies operating in the market, they are legitimately looking for benefits for them and their employees, but also economic benefits for the host communities, for the country or destination visited by the tourists, social objectives, cultural objectives like a better understanding among communities, better opportunities to know other cultures, to know other mentalities, and better understanding, and also environmental objectives in terms of protecting the very fragile planet in which we live, contributing to conservation objectives. So this is my brief, a little wider. I'm trying to make compatible all these objectives, which is the most difficult thing. Now, going back to your question, I don't think that increasing the benefits to the poor in the destinations, it's a matter of simply increasing the numbers of visitors. There are many ways in which the poor can benefit from tourism, not necessarily, but not excluding either, the growth in the numbers of tourist arrivals. You can increase, with the existing number of visitors, you can increase the benefits by, for instance, involving the poor in providing services to them. Transport services, laundry services, guiding services to the same numbers of visitors that we currently have. You can also increase the benefits by improving the supply chain of hotels. Many hotels in the developing world, when the poor, many hotels, particularly the larger hotels, go for the easy way. They prefer, say, to import packed orange juice from Florida, from Spain, from big developed countries that can supply them with regularity, the same quality all the time. However, the oranges are there, next door, and perhaps most sure, the tourists would prefer a freshly pressed orange juice that comes from the locality.
I would think so, yeah.
Yes. So it's a matter of organizing these local producers, perhaps small producers of oranges. And I'm saying oranges, but I could say tomatoes or lettuce or papaya or any other vegetable or meats that can be supplied locally. Or not only food items, but also, say, the curtains, the carpets, the decorations in hotels, all can be provided locally, because all these industries, textiles, handicrafts, food industries, do exist. You don't need great investment to set up this industry. They normally exist, traditional activities, and the tourists appreciate that. So that's another way of increasing the benefits for the poor without increasing the numbers of visitors. So that on the one hand. Secondly, I think there is a point of balance or equilibrium between increasing the benefits to the poor, but also providing benefits for conservation purposes, conservation of the natural heritage, of the delicate ecosystems, or conservation of archaeological sites, and that you can do also involving the poor, so that they realize that these things that they've taken for granted and they are part of their day-to-day life cannot be destroyed, because it has a value in addition to the cultural intrinsic value. They have also an economic value, because there are people coming all the way from thousands of kilometers away to visit them, and they pay money. They pay money to get there, and they pay money to enter the site or to visit the national park. And if we involve these local poor people in these activities, in many different occupations, they will realize that they have to look after, and they will contribute to the conservation. So
I get that picture. You raise more questions in my mind than answer, actually. Can you give me an example or two of destinations where that situation is happening?
Well, there are several examples. I think of the turtles in Costa Rica, for example, where the locals, and I can't remember the name of the exact location, they used to pick up the eggs and use them as eggs, the turtles' eggs. But then they realized that there were tourists coming to see that, and to see the eclosion, I think is the word, when the egg is broken and you have the turtle coming out.
Normal turtle egg omelets?
That's right. So the local people, instead of using the eggs for various purposes, including for handicrafts, now they rather act as guides. They protect the eggs because the revenue they get is much higher than they used to. And another example was recently shown here. I think it was in Uganda or somewhere in Africa, concerning the gorillas that were disappearing, or concerning the dolphins in Indonesia, freshwater dolphins, where again the local people were using them for fishing or simply damaging the dolphins, and with tourism they realized that they had a much higher economic value, and now they look after them. So there are many examples of this kind where the local people don't destroy a forest, because they used to cut the trees for having the wood that they needed to cook or other purposes, but now they see that the forest in itself is a tourist attraction, so they conserve. There are many examples, and if we are able to disseminate and promote the replication of these examples, I think we would make a great difference both for conservation of the natural environment and for poverty alleviation.
And how big of a challenge is it right now in terms of getting that model and that message across to the destinations?
I think it is a big challenge. We at the World Tourism Organization are doing what we can with our limited resources, human and financial resources. We are mainly putting the emphasis on educating, on building capacities in the countries, providing pilot cases to show how this can be done. In the last couple of years, within our program Sustainable Tourism for the Elimination of Poverty, we've undertaken at least 12, 13 capacity building workshops. We've trained over 1,200 people in Africa, Latin America and Asia, providing them with tools that they can apply in their countries. In addition, we have a number of something like 50 pilot projects, again in about 40 countries, to demonstrate, for instance, I can give you an example in Cameroon, a little beach area where we are developing jointly with the local communities a number of lodges, only 5 lodges, to show them that with tourism, with conserving the cleanness of the beach and the environment, the natural environment in the interior part of the beach, they can attract a large number of visitors because it's beach tourism, it's not exclusive, it's just beach tourism. Numbers of visitors that can generate income. We estimated that in that little place, over 100 jobs can be created for people that didn't have any other opportunity. In Mali, we are training women to recycle in an environmentally friendly way and in a healthy, from a sanitary point of view, to recycle plastics, to produce little jewelry for selling to the tourists. I mean, plastic jewelry, but attractive with the traditional style. And this will mean jobs for, I think, in that little town in Mali, for about 60 women. And there are a number of pilot cases. We know what these projects, we won't solve the poverty issue worldwide, which is a major issue. But at least we are providing good examples that can be replicated elsewhere, and that if this replication takes place with the support of governments, with the support of the tourism businesses as well, because eventually all these little micro enterprises that we are supporting have to sell their products. And that's a responsibility also of the larger tour operators in Europe, in the States, in Australia, etc. They have to include this type of new supply in their offer to the tourists in Europe.
Speaking of that, tour operator, you have, is it under your area, the UNWTO Tour Operators Initiative?
Yes, it's an independent thing with about 24 tour operators currently, supported by UNWTO, by UNESCO and by UNI. And currently, since 2005, the Secretariat supporting this tour operators initiative is based in our offices in Madrid at the World Tourism Organization.
Last time I looked at the membership list, it was very heavy on the big tour companies, TUIs and such. Has there been more small and medium ones join the list?
There is a variety of the bigger ones, which is important because sometimes we forget that the sustainability of tourism concerns not only ecotourism, but also the mass tourism segment. And there, I mean, sometimes many people refer to mass tourism as something pejorative, as something negative. Mass tourism is equally valuable and legitimate. The problem with it is that very often it's not managed in a sustainable way, but is as valid as any other tourism activity. It should be managed sustainable, and we are also doing effort and advising governments on how to do this better. So in the Tour Operators Initiative for Sustainable Tourism, there are very large ones, which is important for the reason I've just mentioned. They are medium-sized, they are small tour operators like Discovery Initiatives that presented this morning, Julian Matthews. And there are also incoming tour operators from some recipient countries, Brazil, Morocco, Turkey. So it's a mixture of various types of operators. And that, again, is a model for cooperation between different types of operators from different countries, adopting similar standards when dealing with the destinations, and allowing also for cooperation between the tour operators and the destination countries. we've conducted with them a number of destination management exercises for the tour operators to see what the problems from the perspective of the destinations are, and then to give them advice to both parties how to improve the local conditions, the sewage problem, the cleanness of beaches, whose responsibility it is, how can the tourists behave in a better manner to avoid some problems and so on. So, as in the other case, in the tour operators initiative, a very important element is the encouragement of cooperation of various types of stakeholders. And this is a key element for sustainable tourism in any type of tourism. We have so many actors playing roles: national governments, local communities, local hoteliers, international tour operators. If they don't talk to each other, if they don't agree over and above the business dealings, the business transaction, but how to make the whole destination more sustainable, how to spread the benefits to conservation, to the poor of the locality, then we won't achieve it.
Speaking of those actors, I have been spending a lot of time with NGOs, of course last week with the private sector and major CEOs and chairmen of the World Travel and Tourism Council's Global Travel and Tourism Summit, and with some regional and World Bank people. I think those are probably your three major players that are relatively visible out there. Your works related to sustainable tourism are similar in many ways. And the collaboration is what my question related to. Some of it are duplicative, some of it are collaborative. What's your view on the collaboration, the communications between the private, public sector and the financial sector?
Of the current situation or of the
current
ideas?
Situation.
The current situation, I think there is a long way to go, to be perfectly honest. Though I'm not directly involved in how they work. But
sustainable tourism, there's a lot of players in the private sector, even in the whether it be World Bank or this part of the World Bank or that part of the World Bank.
I think, as I said, there is a long way to go to establish a more permanent kind of relationship between financial institutions, governments, because many of these development banks agree with governments on the terms and conditions and the type of projects that the banks, the regional and the World Bank will fund. And within government, there is also quite often lack of communication between the ministry in charge of tourism, which sometimes is a tourism ministry, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's within other government ministry or departments. Very often the tourism ministry is left alone, and there should be coordination with the Ministry of Finance, there should be coordination with the Ministry of the Environment, there should be coordination with the ministry in charge of the poverty reduction strategy when it comes to developing countries. Every country has a poverty reduction strategy, and there is a government department always in charge of that, and we are striving for tourism to be included in the poverty reduction strategy. And then, having said this regarding intergovernmental, international banks and government departments, the collaboration between these and the private sector is yet another step.
I'm laughing because I heard somebody tell me the example where a country would be, so many people want to give them money for tourism development in related area, 10, 12 proposals from people who have money. Here, And they have proposals, but they say, we don't have enough resources to go through all of them. And nothing happens.
No, that's one of the risks of tourism. That sometimes people think that it's just a matter of taking a piece of land and building there because they have a couple of attractions. You need to integrate tourism into the overall development process. It can be done as a sort of external thing. It has to be done with the local people, whether poor or not poor, but the local people have to be involved, the various government departments. And then you have to also see it with the tour operators, which eventually are going to sell this, and they can give the marketing advice whether this product has chances to be marketed. So,
I think
in summary,
Yes.
and to finish, what I would say is that tourism is a complex area of activity, and if we want it to be a contributor to sustainable development, to poverty alleviation, and to several other Millennium Development Goals, it has to come top in the political agenda. Not necessarily to give it more resources, because sometimes the ministers of finance are a bit adamant, and they say, no, tourism, no, that's too expensive, it's a luxury. No, it's a development sector. It needs political priority for government to work jointly in a tourism development policy and approach, and then the money will come. Sure, the money is not the constraint. The constraint, as I see it now, for a sustainable tourism industry is this collaboration, taking into account all the factors, because this is a sector that touches on people, on the natural environment, on the cultural environment, on economic issues, and so on.
Thank you, Eugenio.
You're very welcome.